Okay, sup guys? Welcome back to Idle Heroes. And here we're gonna make a small guide about IEA and how to make an account surrounding her. Before starting the guide, we should introduce the hero itself, what's its abilities, its cons and pros. First, let's go into her skill tree here. First, her first skill is her active skill is Law of Infinite Era. Active skill that deals 800% of attack damage to all enemies 2 times and inflicts authority manipulation 1 time. Afterwards, deals 600% of attack damage to all targets who have taken damage, and with every 1 debuff the target has, the extra damage will be increased by 600% of attack damage. And it says their authority manipulation converts, it's a skill effect that converts one random attribute buff owned into corresponding attribute reduction. Practically, it just turns whatever buff the enemy has into a debuff. Practically, that's what it does. So, at first glance, this active skill looks really weak. Okay, it looks really weak. The numbers here don't look that good. But if you look a little closely, it says here that for every debuff the target has, the damage increases by 600% of attack. So, what does that mean? Meaning that for every debuff the enemy got, they will have an increased amount of damage, which is the 600%. We'll dive deeper into that later, but her deep sublimation is before Law of Infinite Era, Alikita inflicts authority manipulation, additionally inflicts random 600% of attack dots to burn, poison, bleed to all enemies 1 time, lasting for 3 rounds. So it just randomly picks these stuff, which is good because for her active skill to activate properly, you need to have debuffs. And fun fact, dots are considered debuffs. Dots and any attribute reductions, those are debuffs. Marks are not debuffs though. Unless the mark gives a debuff after the mark, concludes, then that might work. Then second, obviously increase the all damage dealt. That's really good. 12% is really good. And after releasing Law of Infinite Era, increase all allies all damage dealt and to enemies with attribute reductions by 12% for 3 rounds. All allies is probably including Alikita as well, because usually when it says like increase all allies, it's usually including self. If it does not include self, usually it like states that it does not include self. But since it didn't say that it includes self, it probably means that it also applies to Alikita as well, as far as I know. Then her basic, Collapse of Befalling. Passive skill, change the basic attack to deal 800% of attack damage to all enemies, randomly inflicting data destruction 1 to 3 times. Now this is really good. Look at this. Randomly inflicts one of the following effects for 1 round. You can read all the effects and debuffs there. Pretty good. When her basic is pretty good. It gives all these debuffs. One of the better ones is like the energy minus 40, the speed minus 25, good for PvP, and maybe stuff like damage reduction. It's pretty good. Attack reduction, and then it just increased by 12%. Deep sublimation, there's an extra 33% chance to do CC, but CC is not that, it doesn't really happen often, so it's not that important. And +1 random of data destruction inflicted by Collapse Befalling. Pretty good. Good basic. Now this one, Catalysmic Reshaping. Passive skill, at the end of each round, transfer 2 attribute reductions from 3 random allies, excluding self, and grant self structure inversion 6 times. Structure inversion converts 1 random attribute reduction owned into corresponding attribute buff. What this is trying to say is that when your allies have like, you know, reductions, attribute reductions, Alikita will take 2 from 3 allies, so that's 6 attribute reductions into herself, and then at the same time will also practically turn all those attribute reductions into buffs. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff right there. Then it's just attack buff, then additionally restore self HP to 25%. Not bad. 25% is pretty big. Then additionally grant data augmentation 2 times on the ally who has transfer debuff. Randomly grant one of the following effects for 2 rounds. Attack 10%, damage reduction, speed, energy. This is a bit of a problem if you have like a very tight speed order where the speed order is like by tight like 5 or even 1 speed. If 1 or 5 speed is distorted, it will change the speed order. But if you have a decently like large speed order gap, like let's say 20, this shouldn't affect you that much. But it's pretty good. It gives energy, it gives armor, crit damage. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then her worst skill, even though it's her worst skill, it's one of the best skills in PvP because when she dies, it's really bad for the entire team. So passive skill, when being killed, inflict authority manipulation on all enemies 3 times and inflict 3 layers of curse decay on them, respectively. Meanwhile, grant all allies structure inversion 3 times, increase all damage dealt by allies to enemies with attribute reductions by 20% for 3 rounds. Structure inversion converts 1 random attribute reduction owned into corresponding attribute buff. Authority manipulation converts 1 random attribute buff owned into corresponding attribute reduction. And the normal curse of decay, mark that triggers when the target retrieves attribute buff. Once triggered, each layer of curse decay offset 1 layer of attribute buff and deals 800% of attack damage. After that, the curse decay expires. This is really good. This, like, imagine like this. Once Alikita dies in PvP, the entire enemy teams, all their buffs, all those attack buffs, all those holy damage buff, the crit damage buff, all the buffs will turn into debuffs, and your team will just have all the debuffs in your team will be all buffs, and you get a 20% all damage dealt to the enemy, and also it also converts 1 random attribute reduction. Oh, no, not that. That's practically it. Wipeout, it's its name. It wipes out the entire enemy team. And its stuff here is pretty good too. Increase all ally speed by 30 for 2 rounds. If the speed gap between you and your opponent is not that big, and let's say they outspeed you, but once the 30 speed is in there, it might make a difference. And additional 30 energy. Yeah, that's her skills. Pretty good. Now we start with the cons of the Alikita. Out of all the damage dealers, she probably lacks the most damage. Like, potentially she could do more damage, but the amount of attribute reductions in this game is quite limited. In terms of pure damage output, she definitely lags behind to people like, let's say, Williams. Okay, Williams, to be fair, everyone is doesn't do as much damage as Williams, okay? But Alikita doesn't do as much damage. I believe if you get, let's say, 5 attribute reductions on the enemy with all of this stuff, I think you do like 5,200. I'll do the math later. 5,200 in terms of pure skill damage without any skill damage buffs, like what I have like 633 skill damage plus another 200 from the sigils. But yeah, her con is that she doesn't do as much damage as most damage dealers. At least she does better better work compared to Aspen. At least you'll have an easier time with her than Aspen. Lord and Fear Aspen will have a harder time in Void campaign than Alikita. And yeah, that's pretty much her con. Her con is that she doesn't do as much damage compared to the better damage dealers. Now her pros. Pro 1 for Alikita. She destroys PvP. She is the #1 PvP hero. Even rivaling people like Wukong and people like Betty. If you have Wukong, Betty, and Alikita on your team, you will have an easier time in PvP. With Melissa as well, you will dominate PvP with the Alikita because her attribute reductions, like turning attribute reductions into attribute buffs, and then turning the enemy's attribute buffs into attribute reductions, and giving out Curse Out Decay, and having like a very good death passive. But the death passive is kind of useless in Void campaign though, just to warn you. That's a very big con, because this last skill is very useless in Void campaign because the enemies don't really benefit from stuff like buffs a lot, you know. So yeah, it doesn't really work out that well. But not only does she dominate PvP, what I do notice about Alikita compared to other damage dealers is that she is consistent. There is no RNG with her. She is very consistent. Even her damage to bosses and to many enemies, they're the same because she doesn't care if you're a boss or you're a group. She doesn't really care that much. What she cares about is how much damage, how much like attribute reductions do you have. If you have 5 attribute reductions, then you get 5 of the extra damage, 5 extra 600% damage. Yeah, that's like 30k right there. That's 3k skill damage already. 3000% skill damage. There, you just get 3000% skill damage, just like that. So yeah, it's just like that. She's very, very consistent. That's what I have to say, because Williams, Mockman, Vulcan, you have to replay and replay and replay. You have so many stuff to watch out. There's just so much RNG, you know? There's so much RNG involved. Infinite Era Alikita has no RNG. She's a very, very simple damage dealer. She launches her attack, and if you met the conditions for her, then she will do a lot of damage, and her conditions are very easy. She only has one condition. That's literally all she has. Her conditions that you need to have as much attribute reductions on the enemy team as possible. That's her only that's the only thing that you need to worry about. Yeah, but also, if older players are gonna go into this video and say that I'm wrong, and then Infinite Era Lakita does way more damage than everyone, it's shown in the it's literally shown that she does the most damage, but that's late game. Okay, late game stuff is a bit different. I'll show you at the end of the video because I will be wasting a lot of time because of the stuff here. But when she's in Nirvana and she has that destiny on her, her transition skills just do so much damage. And yeah, okay, let's move on. Okay guys, now we need to move on to what kind of teammates does Alikita need. First of all, you need to at least build a team around Alikita's active skill. Her active skill being that she needs as much attribute reductions as possible to produce the most amount of damage. As you can see, Wukong over here, if you read his skill, he gives armor. He reduces armor of the backlines by 20% and damage reduction by 20%. And if you upgrade his skill even more in the sublimation, he gives an extra. He gives that to the front row as well. So that's already two. That's already 2 attribute reductions right there, given by the Wukong. Not only does he do that, he also gives attack reductions as well. Stated here, no, not that one. Here we go. When self counter attacks under Immortal Soul status, there's a 100% chance to reduce the target's attack by 10%. Yes, when he counterattacks. Let's say if the enemy is faster than us, he's gonna counterattack and then he's gonna give them attack debuff. And then that's already another attribute reduction. But that's not the only reason why I got myself a Wukong. But the second reason, obviously, to get a Wukong is because Wukong is a very good support hero. One of the best support heroes, actually probably the best support hero in the entire game. There's no other support hero just as good as Wukong. Wukong does everything. He does some damage. He buffs his teammates. He debuffs the enemies. He CCs. He even does the Betty CC where he ignores speed as well. He's such an all-rounder. He's one of the best support hero in the game currently.
Hey, is this the end of you?
Now we have Lady Blossom Realm Melissa. I picked her in her team because for me it's just that she reduces CC a lot, which is pretty good because in Void campaign CC is a little bit of a problem, especially when there are people like Home Jong doving or Sherlock's doving people. It's just really annoying. Without the Melissa, you're gonna have a very hard time. But not only that, she gives out some pretty cool stuff here. Frontline enemies meanwhile reduce their damage reduction by 15 and control immunity by 15. Since we already have damage reduction, the 15% control immunity is already gonna be given, which is good. But when you think to yourself, but it's only gonna be in the front line. But we'll talk about that later. Next, Doppelganger Natalia. Probably the second strongest support hero that you could give to an Alikita. Why? Because she does practically same thing as Alikita. She also does the attribute reduction. She turns Undying Shadow here. Can trigger special effects through Doppelganger Natalia's active skill. An enemy with Undying Shadow is killed. Enemy with high... Wait, no, not that stuff. Wait, wrong one. Where is it? Here we go. Here's the skill I was talking about. Double Nature. When someone has that Undying Shadow, there is a 100% chance to replicate two frontline enemies. Frontline enemies' attribute reductions from the target to the frontline enemies. But when you upgrade it here to the Noble Sublimation, all your enemies will receive the applicated attribute reduction effects from the target with Undying Shadow. Why is this good? Let's say the Melissa gets her active off and then she has that 15% it can only go to the front line. The doppelganger can replicate it and send it to everyone else. It can also it synergizes well with attack reductions too when you get like an SSM where he reduces the attack of the front line so much and then the doppelganger just spreads that attack reduction to everybody else. Really good. Not only that, but she gives a really good amount of buffs. As you can see here, Guiding Glow increases attack by 16%, holy damage by 20%, damage reduction by 16%, and crit damage by 20%. And this Guiding Glow is given to the hero with the highest attack, which is gonna be Alikita. That's why Doppelganger is really good. She also has a lot of fun stuff with her kit where she helps you survive. Look, if you go into her skills here, when grants Fluorescent Shield to self and ally with Bright Blessing when self HP is below 30 for the first time. But this is the second one because look, Natalia or ally will gain Fluorescent Shield when self or HP of the ally will with Bright Blessing is below 50% for the first time. So that's two emergency shields. That's two emergency shields and also an emergency heal as well. That's pretty good. She not only increases the damage of the Alikita, but she also replicates attribute reductions, which helps Alikita on with her active skill as well, and also she helps Alikita survive. Actually, this is also applicable to all damage dealers. You should always have a doppelganger in your team. There's you should always there's no excuse to not have a doppelganger on the team. She's just too good. Next up, Queen. First of all, bleed. Bleed is very good. That's an attribute reduction. And not only that, it's because of Queen's raw stats, first of all. And also, she also reduces corrupted heroes by crit by 10%. So that's already, so she gives bleed and she gives the crit reduction, meaning that's 2 attribute reductions. So we get 2 attribute reductions from Wukong. From the Melissa, you get 1 extra because Wukong already gets rid of, damage reduction. So that's 3 plus Holora 2. That gives 5. That's 5 attribute. That's 5 extra damage. Extra multiplier damage for the Alikita. That's 3,000 extra damage. 3,000 extra skill damage right there for the Alikita. But not only that, Scarlet Queen Holora is the best support hero in terms of helping the damage dealer do as much damage as possible. Because it says here, corrupted heroes deal 24% less crit damage. That's not that important, but the important part is that they take 24% more crit damage. So if the Alikita crits, they just take 24% more damage. Like, it's not all damage dealt, so you don't add it with the other all damage dealt. No, this is a completely different stat. Meaning, with all the multipliers, everything, let's say you do 10 million, and then you just add that 10 million to the 24%. So that's like 12.4 million now. Did I do the math right? I'm very sure I did the math right. And not only that, but her Royal Guard one as well is really good. It just flats out increases the all damage dealt of the Alikita, not just the Alikita, the entire team by 24%, which is a little bit outrageous. 24%, that's pretty good. Next up, Therapist of Blood Betty. I just picked her up because she's a really good CC hero, okay? If you want Alikita to survive, this is the person you need. Unless it's a Valkyrie, Therapist of Blood Betty will buy time. She will at least waste like 4 rounds for you. She will not let the enemy even touch you because that's how good her CC is. She is the best CC hero in the entire game currently. But for now, she doesn't really give any debuffs that I don't have already, like bleed. My guys already have bleed, so it doesn't really help out that much. But when you increase her stuff here, additionally reduce backline's control immunity by 10%. Now the entire backline has 10% control immunity reduced already. Stuff like that. But don't recommend upgrading her aside from T1. She only needs a core and she's already good. So yeah. And then, oh wait, no, that's practically it. And also, don't think that 5 is the maximum because Alikita also gives out attribute reductions too before her active skills is here. It says here, before Law of Infinite Era inflicts authority manipulation, additionally inflict random 600% of attack dot, burn, bleed, and poison. So if you were to, we already have bleed, so the bleed is useless. But if we have the burn and the poison, either the burn or the poison on all the enemies, yeah, that's an extra. So that's like 6. We have 6. So that's 6,000. That's 3,600% skill damage already. Just added to her active skill of 800 times 2 with the 600. That's just an extra 3,600 onto her active skill. It's pretty good. Alikita, that's pretty good. So that's practically the whole team that I could advise you to pick for Alikita. For me, this is the best thing possible, but I was thinking that you could get rid of the Betty. The Betty is not necessary. As long as you're fine with RNG, you could give the Dragon Rui Scepter to the Wukong. Also, if you want to make Wukong the... Oh wait, no, you're not supposed to have that. Why do you have that? No, 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 you don't get that. Betty gets that. But aside, if you're not running as you're not running a Betty, you're gonna need a Dragon Rui Scepter for Wukong, because Wukong with an Elusive Mirror will not work whatsoever as a CC. He cannot CC properly with an Elusive Mirror. At best, he will probably CC 4 guys. And then the other 2 are not gonna be CC'd. You think that's good, but in Void Campaign that's bad. Okay, compared to Betty, Betty will shut down the entire enemy team for 3 rounds, 4 rounds straight without them hitting our team even once. Wukong at best, he will stall for round 1 and round 2. He's not as good CC compared to Alikita. But if you have the Dragon Rui Scepter, splendid Dragon Rui Scepter, Wukong can work. But the problem is, you better do as much damage as possible, because without Betty there to stall the enemy for a long time, you're gonna get wiped out by the enemy team. So that's why in William teams where there's Williams, it's not too hard to run a Williams anymore. That's why, because of Dragon Rui Scepter, it changed the game completely. But now there's Gauntlet. I think Gauntlet might be even a little bit better in terms like pure CC and than the Dragon Rui Scepter actually when I looked into the stats. If I had to replace the Betty, the one hero I would replace Betty with would be for me Vespera. Is that her name? Vespera. Why do I think Vespera is the second is if you're to get rid of Betty, because Betty is not completely, how am I supposed to say this, needed. She definitely helps, but she's not completely needed anymore. I would pick Vespera. Why? Just read this, bro. Like, this is all, this answers everything. Damage, deals damage to 1500% of attack. Damage to all enemies afterwards. Inflict lethal incense 3 on one enemy with the highest attack for 2 rounds. Meanwhile, reduce their attack by 20, armor by 20, damage reduction by 20, control immunity by 20, and speed by 20 for 2 rounds. And why do you think this is good? If you read the description, it says to the highest attack, right? And you're thinking, yeah, but it's only gonna be one guy, right? Now read Doppelganger's skill. Now read Undying Shadow. Skill effect can trigger no, not that. Undying Shadow. Here. Undying Shadow. Okay, it says here, Undying Shadow. Skill effect that can trigger special effects through Doppelganger. Natalia's active passive: when an enemy with Undying Shadow is killed, one enemy with the highest attack will be inflicted with Undying Shadow. Meaning that in Undying Shadow, it's the ones inflicted with Undying Shadow is the enemy with the highest attack. So, Vespera giving all those damage reductions to that enemy with the highest attack, and Undying Shadow choosing the person with the highest attack, and also her passive skill here her passive skill there when all enemies will receive replicated attribute reduction effects from target with Undying Shadow. Meaning all these debuffs that Vespera gives to the enemy with the highest attack will be spread out to everybody, and everybody will have all these debuffs. You know how insane that is? That's reduce their attack, armor, damage reduction 3, control immunity 4, speed 5. obviously we already have armor and damage reduction and attack and control immunity, but we don't have speed though. That's all I gotta say. We don't have speed, but this just gives a layer of consistency, you know? And skill effects, Incense 1 is not stackable, reduce... Oh wait, no. We go here. Incense 3, reduce skill effect, not stackable, reduce the owner's all damage dealt by 10%. Ooh. It reduces the owner's all damage dealt. Yeah, look at that. It reduces the owner's all damage dealt by 20%. If the owner has 100 or more energy, when lethal incense is removed, they lose 100 energy, and there is a 50% chance to inflict lethal incense on one of their allies without lethal incense for 2 rounds. If the owner has less than 100 energy, the owner takes 30% of their max energy damage instead of caps at 1500 of Vespera's attack. Bit confusing, but overall, she is one of the best. She's really good. She's really good with Alikita. Damage additional reduces the speed of the target who takes the damage by 50. That's pretty good. Reduces damage dealt. Inflict lethal incense on 2 enemies with the highest attack instead. Wow, that's just insane. Lethal incense is just so good when you look at it. Basic attack does 800% backline. There's a Veil of Mist for 2 rounds. Afterward, increase frontline allies damage reduction by 10 and control immunity by 10 for 2 rounds. Then increase backline allies attack by 10%. Ooh, whoa. Veil, reduce 50% of all damage dealt by owners to inflictor. What? That's good! Damage dealt to back enemy. There's a 80% chance. Whoa, what do you mean? 50% all damage dealt by the owner to the inflictor? Oh, hell nah, bro. That's too overpowered. Increase its precision by 4. So, the precision is like... Instead of 80%, it's 120%? That's guaranteed. Bro, it's a... Oh my god, that's just disgusting. That's disgustingly powerful, bro. 80% chance to increase all backline allies, all damage dealt by 8% for 2 rounds. Meanwhile, increase all frontline damage reduction for 2. Whoa, bro. This... At the end, grants Stygian Mark on ally with the highest attack for 1 round. When ally with the Stygian Mark releases basic skill or active skill, additionally attack the target with lethal incense, dealing 10% of their max HP. Okay, that's more mid at least. At least there's balance to this character. When own of Sylvian Mark releases basic attack or active, there's a 70% chance to inflict stun on the target. Whoa. When the owner of Stygian Mark releases basic attack or active skill, additionally grant a shield equal to 1000 with the lowest HP. Fatal Allure. Passive skill when self takes damage from basic attacks or active skills, there's an 80% chance to inflict Veil of Mist on the attacker for 2 rounds. Attacker has Veil of Mist, there's a 70% chance to inflict lethal incense on 3 on them for 2 rounds instead. Okay, lethal incense. No. Not lethal incense. Oh my god. There's a 60% chance to deal 800% attacker and reduce their energy. She reduces a lot of energy. If it inflicts lethal incense on the target successfully, grants Stygian Mark to 1 random ally with Stygian Mark for 2 rounds. What does Stygian Mark do again? Forgot. Stygian Mark. Ally with Stygian gains 100% more bonus above. Oh. So Stygian Mark is just increase the all owner's damage dealt by 10% for everyone. For every 1 time the hero is granted the Stygian Mark, repeatedly increase the bonus by 100%. It can be increased to... What? That's 20% all damage dealt then? Oh, hell nah. I'm getting Vespera, bro. There's nothing stopping me. I'm getting Vespera. She's too overpowered, bro. There's no way. You all, if you're gonna get Alikita, get Vespera, bro. She's so overpowered. What is this? She's perfect. You just need Vespera. You definitely need Vespera on the team, but if you have a Vespera, you also need a doppelganger, Natalia, to aid Vespera with her like debuffs and stuff. Whoa, that's just insane. Well, let's move over to the next part. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the artifacts. First, for Infinite Era Lakita, the best damaging artifact is literally Breath of the Forest Spirit Glittery. Don't fight me on this, bro. You're gonna say that, oh, the melodic strings is better. The what was the other one called? The deific version of the melodic strings is better. No, no, no. I've tested it. I literally tested it on Void Campaign. Like in one time, I was testing the damage difference between them. I was like, man, instead of using this Breath of the Forest Spirit for bosses, I was like using melodic strings when I was fighting in Void Campaign. I was like stuck in a Valkyrie wave in chapter 6, and then I was not able to kill them no matter how hard I do. As soon as I equip Breath of the Forest Spirit, I one-shot them. That's insane. Like I don't know why, but Breath of the Forest Spirit Glittery does more damage than the melodic strings or the what was the deific version of the melodic strings. You only need this to be glittery, and it's already doing that much damage. Like it gives really good stats: 90% precision, 30% attack, 33% attack, 300 skill damage. That's insane. It's great for precision because people usually ignore precision because you have a lot of other stuff to worry about. You know, holy damage, skill damage, crit. You know, precision is a little bit of a neglected stat, but Breath of the Forest Spirit does give you precision, and it's not a neglected stat because it's a bad stat. It's just that there's better stats. Obviously I would prefer holy damage over precision, but free precision, that's good. That's like extra damage right there. Anyways, for Alikita, definitely Breath of the Forest Spirit, but only if you have the energy feed to back it up, because if you can't do a round 1 active with this, it's kinda useless. I don't recommend it if you can't do a round 1 active. You need to at least have 2 demon bells. 2 demon bells to get that round 1 active, because 2 demon bells gives 40 energy and 50% chance, and each demon bell has a 50% chance to get another 10 energy, so that's around a potentially 60 energy, but a 75% chance of getting 50 energy. That's pretty good, 75%. If you calculate it. Elusive Mirror. Definitely get Elusive Mirrors. I think I should give the Wukong, not Elusive Mirror. The Wukong should have the Demon Bell actually, because Wukong's the fastest in the team, and Melissa is giving good bonuses to the person with the fastest in the team. So like no, Melissa energy feeds the fastest in the team, so it's best to give Wukong the Demon Bell so that Wukong can chain actives as much as possible to give as much energy as possible. So yeah, definitely in a team you should have 2 Elusive Mirrors. And why is Elusive Mirror important? One reason: energy feed. Just read the description. It at the end of each round, restore all allies' energy by 15%. It says at the end of each round, okay? Meaning that it doesn't happen at the start. And at the beginning of the battle, after every 3 rounds, increase all damage dealt by 4.5 times. This effect will decrease by 1.5 each round. Obviously, it resets by every 3 rounds and stuff like that. Offsets the targets by 3% of control immunity, and then also and stuff like that. Increase and then the 2 effects will double to the hero equipped with Elusive Mirror. So yeah, 4.5, and I have 2 Elusive Mirrors, so that's just 9 all damage dealt given to my Alikita and everyone in the team for free. And Wukong will get 9 all damage dealt on passive because times 2. Now you can see why Elusive Mirror is good. But in terms of pure energy feed, Elusive Mirror is not as good as the Demon Bell. On round 1 at least. On round 1, Demon Bell's better, but long term in a long fight, energy chaining with the Elusive Mirror is better because it's automatic. You know, it ignores speed because it happens after a round, so it ignores speed. Yeah, you just need 2 Elusive Mirrors and 2 Demon Bells to function properly in a team so that your energy feed will help you get that round 1 active. Obviously for here, Demon Bell, Splendid, you can have that active skill. When you get an active skill, it increases by 100. Chance to increase all allies' energy by 20%. As you can see, if the hero does an active skill, it increases all allies by 20 energy and a 50% chance to increase an extra 10% 10 energy. So that's like 30 energy round 1. 30 energy round 1, which is pretty good. That's why you need the 2 Demon Belts so that you can get at least round 1 active with the Breath of the Forest Spirit. You need 2 Splendid Demon Belts, or you could do a Radiant and a Splendid, but it's better to just get 2 Splendids, you know. But yeah, that's for energy artifacts. That's definitely all you need for energy. Then the last one. Warning, this is purely optional. It's very hard to do. For me, it took me like 4 months just to do it. Splendid Dragon Rui Scepter. The best CC item in the entire game. It helps CC to the max. 67, I'm not gonna say that stuff, bro. It's brain rot. But yeah, it gives a lot of HP, 100 speed, 67 control precision, and 20% damage reduction. Pretty good, right? It also gives an offset of 30% offset to the control immunity of the heroes of the other team, you know, control immunity offset by 30%, and also has a control immunity. It gives 20 control immunity at the beginning of each battle, and at the beginning of each battle there's a 50% chance to gain 100 energy, meaning that with Betty's skill, where when her energy is above 100, she will automatically use her attack, ignoring speed order. This is why Dragon Rui Scepter with Betty will destroy Void Campaign and PvP, because especially Void Campaign, because this is a revolution, because the problem about Void Campaign is that speed becomes impossible the longer you play in Void Campaign. You know, people have been wondering, how do we do this? How do we stop ourselves from getting nuked by an enemy team before we can even get our second move on? This is the strategy here. Dragon Rui Scepter Splendid, because it will help your Betty ignore speed order whatsoever. The enemy team could have a bajillion speed if they wanted, it wouldn't matter, because Therapist of Blood Betty will launch her active skill ignoring speed. Yeah, that's why you could get a Dragon Rui Scepter. For a Betty, Dragon Rui Scepter is definitely it's not required. It definitely helps, but it's not required. She can just go with an Elusive Mirror, and then you could hope that the enemy team touches her, so that, you know, oh, hey, don't think that like that, guys. That's bad. What I mean is that, you know, when an enemy hits your team, they gain energy. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, that's what I'm not trying to. Nah, that's bad, guys. You shouldn't think like that. But yeah, pretty much. But if you don't have a Betty and you have a Wukong, definitely you need to have the Wukong needs to have the Dragon Rui Scepter. He cannot function properly without a Dragon Rui Scepter as a CC hero in Void Campaign. He will struggle hard, I promise you that. He will have a hard time CCing the entire enemy team unless you have like so much treasure train, so much star spawn. And also, really good new artifact that I recommend you making for your team. It's relatively cheap too. You don't. It's like you only need it to be glittery. I recommend you get yourself this Claw of the Fallen Demon King. Obviously, this is the same thing, but its copies are really hard to get. So it's gonna be Card Clash next week. I'm gonna get myself another gauntlet of this, meaning I'll get 2 copies of the gauntlet, get a glittery, and then deify it so that I can get this, a glittery version of this. Not the good thing about this is the burn immunity. That's the main thing. But when you look down here, no, let's go up here. When the battle starts, or when Self is in the battle as a substitute, if Self is in the backline, gains 100 energy. At the start of the battle, gains 100 energy. That ignores speed. That ignores speed order. If you give this to a Betty, she will do the same thing as a Dragon Receptor, but better than a Dragon Receptor because it's guaranteed to be 100 energy. Guaranteed to have 100 energy if you're in the backline. That's why I'm so sad for the past few weeks, because I'm thinking that, man, I wasted 4 months of my time because I could have gotten this Claw of the Fallen Demon King instead. I could have gotten a glittery of this and saved 2 mystery chests and 2 deific chests, you know? I could have saved so much stuff. Instead, I got myself a Dragon Receptor that took 4 months to do, and then this thing shows up and it's better at glittery than the Dragon Receptor itself. You understand me? This thing is infuriating. Well, it has 2 modes. Aside from giving energy when you're the backline, it has 2 modes. First, I like to call this the round 1 mode, wherein when it's before the round starts. Where is it? Here we go. Oh no, not that. Law of tenacity. Here. Law of brutality. If you're in the backline, if Self is in the backline, in round 1, control immunity by 75% control immunity, and also a control immunity offset of 55. 55, that's actually better. 55 control immunity is actually better than the Dragon Receptor's control immunity offset. Control immunity offset from the Dragon Receptor was only 30. But it did give like 67 control precision. So I would say it's still better, but 55% control immunity offset, that's really good. Like, I'm not sugarcoating, that's very, very good. That's like 25% higher. Like, in terms of percentage, it's 25% higher than Dragon Receptor. Pretty good. But that's only in round 1, okay? And also, the longer it gets, it will reduce its effectiveness by 20%. All the way down to 30% control immunity, and then 22% control immunity offset. Sadly, it's only good for round 1s. And then Law of Tenacity, this happens on round 2. Law of Tenacity happens in round 2. It gains a shield equal to 85% of max HP, and all damage reduction by 55. This happens as soon as round 2 starts. Okay, this is at the beginning of the battle, at the beginning of the round. So you just get 85. You just get a shield that's 85%, and then you also get a damage reduction 55. That's insane. That's insane stuff right there. And obviously it will reduce over time. It will reduce by 20% down to 34. All damage reduction, 34% of the shield, and 22% of the all damage reduction. Then Law of Nourishment, which will happen on the 3rd round. It gains 160 energy, which is absolutely insane, by the way, and restore HP equal to 85%. And it will slowly dwindle down to 64 energy and to 34% HP. Then the Law of Trinity gains all 3 effects. This happens on round 4, by the way. Gains all 3 effects above keeping the current values, does not trigger the repetition effect. Practically, it just triggers all 3 of them. That's what Trinity. But this only happens if it's splendid. To be honest, you don't need this. It definitely helps, but you don't need it. I tell you that. Aside from that, There's not a lot of good stuff here that you should put in a team. Definitely not. There's a few good ones. Lingering Melody of the Universe, pretty good, but in my opinion, it's not that great. Like, Breath of the Forest Spirit is still better, in my opinion. It definitely does more damage. At least I compared the damage with the Breath of the Forest Spirit with the melodic strings, but Lingering Melody of the Universe is definitely different because, more. It doesn't only do all damage dealt, but it also increases the attack by, like, let me see, decrease around, increases the hero's attack by 50%. 50% attack is quite a lot, actually. Whoa, what the hell? 50% attack and 50% all damage dealt. This would have been better if instead of attack it was holy damage. Everyone would be getting this, bro. Imagine 50 holy damage. That would be insane. Like 50 holy damage? Absolutely. Everyone would be using that. Aside from that, there's no other really useful stuff here. All of this stuff is like mostly endgame stuff that you could get because, you're bored as hell and you need to be as optimal as possible. Like Will of Winters, this will destroy PvP, but it's so expensive. It's not worth it early and mid game. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. So, in conclusion, IEA is a pretty good hero. With the proper team, with the proper equipment, you can go far in Void campaign. I'm actually went pretty far. I'm at 711. But it's not that far. I'm not strong enough to beat this wave, but to be honest, my team is probably not strong enough. As you can see, I don't even have a single drop of destiny on my team, so it's a bit unfair, Like, I've seen people still stuck in chapter 6, and they have like high amount of destiny in their team, and they're stuck at chapter 6. Like, I'm like wondering how do they get stuck at chapter 6 with so much destiny, and when they do beat chapter 711, I see they have like D3, and some of them are even D9. I'm like, do you need that much firepower just to beat chapter 711? I'm thinking to myself. I'm watching some people attempted beating 711. I'm just wondering to myself, do you really need that much firepower just to beat 711? I'm a bit worried, guys. I have to get this Alikita to D3. Definitely D3 at least. On Wukong as well. I should put some destiny in the Wukong and the Alikita to get them as buffed up and caked up as possible. And definitely gonna get Vespera soon. I should get myself a Vespera. It would be really useful. Like, I should kick out the Alikita for the Vespera. Because Alikita... no, not the Alikita. The Betty. Should kick out the Betty for a Vespera. Because Vespera, bro, her stuff is so good. I looked at her active skills and her passives, bro. They're so good. But overall, Alikita is a very strong hero. Definitely, you should build her. You should not build her immediately. You should have at least 4 or 3 Transcendence heroes before you should build her. You should have Wukong definitely first. You should have Wukong first. Then you should get yourself a Betty, or a Holora, or a DNG. But what matters is that Melissa definitely should go last. She's not a priority. Melissa should go last in the team dynamic. But aside from that, this is a perfect team. You should, practically. First Wukong, then you could go with Betty, or DNG, or Holora. You can interchange those 3. But you should know that Wukong should always be first. Then after getting like 3 or 4 Transcendence heroes, then you can get yourself Alikita. And then, you get yourself a perfectly good Alikita, and then with only like 16 million attack, you'll be able to get to 711 easily, with no destiny or anything. You'll be able to reach 711. Yeah, that's practically it on the guide of what what can this hero offer, the cons, the pros, what kind of teammates she needs, what kind of artifacts does she need. But yeah, that's pretty much to sum things up. Oh yeah, I forgot. Before I forget, I should show you her when she gets into Destiny Nirvana stuff. She gets too crazy, bro. Where's Alikita here? Look at this script stuff. Look at this. Okay, so let's go to the transition skill first. Okay, so I have a calculator with me literally while doing this. So transition skill. When self has 12 layers of transition power, consume all the layers to deal 1200 of attack damage to all enemies. So let's just do 1200 right there. 1200, and for every one extra debuff, deal an extra 1200. So since we're expecting to have a lot of debuffs, since it's gonna be most likely late game, let's do a multiplier of 6. Okay, so times 6, because let's say 6 attribute reductions on the enemy team. That's fair. 6 attribute reductions. And then plus the 1200 there, because it says here consume all damage dealt, deal with 1200 of attack damage to all enemies, and for every one debuff. So it's gonna be 1000. So 1200 times 6 is 7200, plus another 1200 is equal to 8400, plus the Spirit Pivot Moon Abyss. It will self-consume all of them, will inflict data destruction on all enemies 3 times, afterwards deals 1500. Plus 1500. Plus 1500 equals to 9900. Then after that, you and then damage to all enemies for every debuff, deal an extra 1500. So it's equal to that, and then plus 1500 times 6. So if I'm not mistaken, is transition skills and then the active skill, are they completely different? I'm not too sure about that. I'm just gonna assume they're completely different. So it's 18,900 plus her active skill that gives like 3,600 plus 1,600 plus 600. So she does 24,700 skill damage. Yeah, that's pretty good. 24,700 skill damage overall, if I'm not wrong with my calculations. Anyways, that's her pure damage, in terms of pure statistics, in terms of skill damage when she reaches Nirvana. If she gets like 6 attribute reductions. Anyways, that should be the end of the video. Bye guys, hope you like it.